Welcome to Front Office Pros. We asked some Front Office Pros community members to participate in a rookie mock draft. So with me is my co-host Joe and Dustin Ludke to analyze the 4-round, 12-team Superflex rookie mock draft. Before we get started, we are a new channel, so if you enjoyed this video, we ask you to smash that subscribe button to show your support.
Hike!
All right, so we're going to go through the first round. So 1.1 was running back Bijan Robinson. 1.2 was quarterback Anthony Richardson. 1.3, which was Dustin's pick, which was Jahmyr Gibbs, running back. Then we did quarterback Bryce Young at the 1.4, at the 1.5, quarterback CJ Stroud at the 6 picks. This was Joe's pick, and he selected Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver, at 1.6. Then 1.7, we have Jordan Addison, wide receiver. 1.8, Quentin Johnston, wide receiver. 1.9, which was my pick, and I selected tight end Dalton Kincaid. At the 10th spot was wide receiver Zay Flowers. At the 11th spot was running back Kendre Miller. And at the last spot in the first round, 112, was running back Devin Achane. So, Dustin, what were your thoughts on this first round, and were there any surprises for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started off the ball of surprises by taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 103 over Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I'm a Stroud believer. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I think I agree with you, Steve. You've always said he's kind of a vanilla quarterback. But I like the upside of Gibbs for the future. I think he's what the Lions expected Swift to be, and who Swift never turned out to be. I think he's an every down back, probably not this year because of Dave Montgomery, but can be that going forward. So that was the biggest surprise, which was my own doing. And then I think you going Dalton Kincaid at 109 over Zay Flowers was interesting. We're both Bills fans, so I know we're excited. At least you're more excited than I am for Dalton Kincaid. First round draft capital. So that was the other surprise because I'm a big believer in Zay Flowers and what that offense can be under Todd Monken. Those were the two big surprises for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dustin. I think those were the two surprises for me as well. Everything else was, I think pretty standard from what we've seen with prior mock drafts.
Interesting. I was surprised that I know how much you like Stroud, so I'm surprised that you passed on him. But I do agree with you. Even though Gibbs will be sharing the backfield with David Montgomery, I actually really like the spot only because I just saw how excited the Detroit Lions front office was. That's a big part of it. Is the front office, is the coaching staff committed to the player, and are they going to have designed plays for the player? And I believe that's going to be the case for Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, for them to draft him at number 12, I mean, that's pretty high for a running back. We don't see running backs get drafted that high. So to me, I think it's a vote of confidence for Jahmyr Gibbs and for those who are interested in taking him. I'm going to push back with you guys on the Kincaid pick. I don't know why you guys are out on Kincaid. I think Kincaid has a huge ceiling. He's not even going to play a traditional tight end role. He's essentially going to be a slot receiver. So he's going to create great separation. He's a huge target in the red zone. They need a third receiver. He's effectively their third receiver, and he actually could be the second pass catcher in that offense. I think he could supplant Gabe Davis as the top pass catching option for the Buffalo Bills, and that offense is a high-powered offense. So to me, what's Zay Flowers going to do? Zay Flowers, yes, I like him, but he's going to be the third man to Odell Beckham and most likely Rashad Bateman. So to me, and Mark Andrews. So I think you're going to see more of a return on Kincaid early. I know people say, oh, it takes a while for tight ends to develop. You shouldn't draft tight ends early. And I understand that, but I think Kincaid is an exception to the rule.
Yeah, for me, it's just that slot role for Buffalo has traditionally not been heavily utilized, right? We saw McKenzie, we saw Crowder in there last year. Khalil Shakir jumped in there sometimes. Just didn't see him a ton of opportunities. The Bills did run 3 wide receiver sets like 75% of the time, which is a good number, but it just wasn't a ton of targets. Dawson Knox is still there. The Bills did need another receiver, but what they really needed was a bigger receiver to play on the outside to then, on 2 wide receiver sets, it's Diggs and this other receiver. And then when it's 3 wide receiver sets, Gabe Davis, this other receiver outside, and they can move Diggs into the slot because they saw a lot of success with that. There was 3 or 4 games last year where Dawson Knox did play a significant number of slot roles and had decent weeks, but I'm just not sure like a rookie tight end coming in there, which rookie tight ends are slow to develop. Even if you take the top tight ends who were drafted in the first round, so Kyle Pitts and Nevin Ingram, there's a bunch of other ones that just didn't produce well in their first season. Just not great numbers for rookie tight ends. So I think he's going to be a great player for the Bills. I just think it's high for a tight end that's probably not going to produce this year.
My other surprise for me in this mock is I'm a little confused by the 11th and 12th pick. So I think Kendre Miller could be really interesting in New Orleans, but you've got Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara, so I'm not sure how quickly the return you're going to get for him. And then I know you guys are going to disagree with me big time on this. I know Devin Achane is a darling of the Dynasty community, but to me, I don't know if he's going to get more than 10 carries a game. I understand he went to the best landing spot in Miami, but I would rather have, I think, Zach Charbonnet or Michael Mayer, who ended up getting selected in the second round, which we'll talk about a little later.
You would rather have Charbonnet? I think
I would.
The A-Chain, he's got a couple of old guys with Jeff Wilson and Mostert ahead of him, and I think he should be heavily utilized in the passing game. I think there's a more like direct path for him to get more opportunities than Charbonnet in Seattle with Kenneth Walker there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Charbonnet landing in Seattle was not great. I was down on Charbonnet post-combine. I think Devin Achane I think it's the best landing spot for a running back, and I think he's got the talent, the speed to produce there. I agree with you, Steve, that he's going to see limited work. I think he probably sees 15 touches a game, total touches between carries and receptions. But that's just how Miami uses their running back. So even if Charbonnet went there, he was only going to see 15 touches. So I don't think it makes a difference, the style of running back. But I like his speed. As Joe said, they got older guys in Mostert and whoever else is there, right? They just keep recycling the same guys who haven't been great. They get a young guy who can go in there, can use his speed, catch passes out of the backfield. I think he's good. He will lose some probably early down work. He's not big. He's not going to get the goal line work. They're going to go to Mostert or probably Jeff Wilson for that just because of his size. But I think whoever landed there was probably going to get 15 touches a game. So I think Devin Achane's there because it's just a great landing spot.
So transitioning over to round 2, at 2.1, we had tight end Michael Mayer selected. At 2.2, we had running back Zach Charbonnet selected. At 2.3, Dustin selected wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. At 2.4, Josh Downs, the wide receiver, was selected. Then at 2.5, wide receiver Rashee Rice was selected. Then at 2.6, this was Joe's pick. He selected tight end Sam Laporta. At 2.7, Jaden Reed, wide receiver, was selected. Then the 2.8, running back Roschon Johnson was selected. At 2.9, it was my pick. I picked wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. At the 2.10, the next pick was Marvin Mims, wide receiver. Then the 2.11 was quarterback Will Levis. And then lastly, at the 2.12, we've got running back Israel Abakanda. So, Joe, what stood out to you in this second round?
Yeah, I think for me, I was kind of surprised. Dustin ended up going with Jonathan Mingo. Especially over somebody like Downs. But I think and then also I know he's kind of been a rising name here, but interesting to see Roschon Johnson also going in the second round as well.
I couldn't be happier to see Roschon Johnson climbing up draft boards. I fell in love with the dude at the combine. Just a great personality, great leader on a team. Really showed some good flashes with some of his workout scores. Happy to see him go. Surprised he went at 208. I thought he might fall to the little later in the second round. I went with Jonathan Mingo just over. I like both Mingo and Josh Downs. I think Mingo, for me, has a clearer path to get to the number one receiver there in Carolina versus I think Downs is really pushing for that number 2 slot. I don't think he can beat out Michael Pittman just based on size. I was surprised that at 205, Rashee Rice went, a wide receiver for the Chiefs. I think we've just been down this road every year with everyone expecting the Chiefs wide receiver to be the next Tyreek Hill, and it's never is. It's never McCole Hardman. It's never MVS. It wasn't Juju Smith. It's Travis Kelce, and then everyone. Like, they just don't get enough work for me to be that high of a pick. So I thought he would go early third round, maybe late second. So that was a surpriser for me.
Yeah, I agree with you about Rashee Rice. I'm with you. I'm out on the Kansas City wide receiver room until otherwise. I want to see it first. I really do, because it's a different guy every week. I thought Sky Moore could do pretty well. He really did nothing his first year. Now there's hype talking about Kadarius Toney. I could see it, but I don't know. To me, it's too risky of a pick. I'd rather have somebody that I think could have a greater opportunity. I'll say this though: when Travis Kelce retires, that offense is going to change dramatically.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to play for the next 2 years. My surprise was I was a little surprised that Will Levis was selected at 2.11. I actually thought that he should have went earlier than this. I think I probably should have considered him at my pick, but I ended up going with Jalen Hyatt. So for me, I was very shocked for him to go late. I think the most puzzling pick for me that I'm really scratching my head is Israel Abakanda at the 2.12. I understand that he performed really well at his pro day, and I really liked him as a prospect. But you've got Breece Hall, which I think for most people is either running back 1 or 2 in Dynasty. And then you also have got Michael Carter on the roster and Zonovan Knight. So I feel like Abakanda is more of a third round prospect, maybe even fourth, depending. I think third, maybe late third. So I was a little surprised by that selection.
Yeah, for me, I think Abakanda, I think it's the fear that Breece Hall won't come back and they're going to work him in slow, and then Abakanda could have value early. Again, I really liked him in his pro day, so I think that's why he went there. And I think Will Levis would have went earlier if this was a real draft based on team needs. If you need a quarterback, I think I could see him going late first, early second. I think it's just because it's a mock, people don't see that need. I think when you get into real drafts, you'll see teams that are QB needy. If they miss out on the top 3, they're going to take Will Levis earlier.
Yeah, that was a thing that was kind of tough for me, just because it was just a mock and you're kind of just trying to pick like who you think is the best player available at your pick, where, you know, I'm used to thinking about like an overall team need or spots to fill or something like that. So it's kind of different for sure.
I definitely think in a super flex league, which is just what the mock is for, I agree with you. I think Levis definitely would have picked earlier. But like you guys said, that's how it happened. So transitioning over to the third round. At the 3.1, we've got Cedric Tillman, wide receiver. The 3.2, wide receiver Kayshon Boutte. 3.3, Dustin selected quarterback Hendon Hooker. At the 3.4, running back Tyjae Spears. At the 3.5, we've got running back Tank Bigsby. At the 3.6, Joe selected running back Chase Brown. 3.7, we've got running back Zach Evans. 3.8, wide receiver Tank Dell. At the 3.9, I selected tight end Luke Musgrave. 3.10, running back Eric Gray. 3.11, running back Dwayne McBride. And at the last pick, at the 3.12, it was tight end Brenton Strange. So, Dustin, what stood out to you in round 3 of this mock?
So I'll start off with my pick. So the reason why I went Gibbs over Stroud and the reason why I went Mingo over Sam Laporta is because I believe that Hendon Hooker would make it back to me in the third round. I didn't want to go basically 3 Lions, have Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Hooker. So that's why I took Mingo over Sam Laporta, who went to Detroit, which is my favorite tight end landing spot in this draft. I think he's going to do really well there. I think Hendon Hooker has a shot to be the second best quarterback in this draft class over the next 10 years. Yes, you heard me right. In 10 years, we could be saying Hendon Hooker was the second best quarterback in this draft class behind CJ Stroud. There's a lot of question marks with Anthony Richardson, some question marks with the size of Bryce Young. Will Levis has some questions about it, whether or not he can see people coming at him off the edge. He has no pocket awareness. So that's why I went with that one. For me, the big question mark here was Dwayne McBride from Minnesota at 3.11. I'm guessing that mock drafter assumes that Dalvin Cook will be gone, which seems to be what rumors and the smoke says that he's going to be gone. And that means McBride could step into a bigger role. But it's just an odd pick here at the third round we don't know that yet. Like, yes, if Cook is gone, I think McBride can go in the third round. I just don't know if you can take him there with Dalvin Cook still on the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of it was, Sleeper had some weird ways they ranked these players, I felt like. And for a while there, he was like one of the top guys, at the running back spot. So, maybe that person just was strapped and didn't know which guy to choose. I mean, we only had a minute as well. Maybe they picked the top guy on the board at the time. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Dustin. With Hendon Hooker, I really like his potential. Would have been drafted a lot higher had it not been, recovering from the ACL injury that he suffered, still in college there. So like you, I'm not the biggest Bryce Young guy. I have serious questions about how he's going to physically hold up with his small frame. But I think Hooker's got a lot of potential.
Steve, set that reminder 10 years from now when we look back at this draft class and we'll pull up this video. Shaking your head at me. I think if Hendon Hooker doesn't get hurt, he was a Heisman. Heisman talked about, like they were talking about him being a Heisman front runner until he got hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, he's a top 5 pick. I think gets drafted before Anthony Richardson. I think he goes at top 3. I think he could go. It could have been right. It could have been Stroud at 1 or Hendon Hooker at 1. Like he could have been up there easily.
Wow.
I think his talent is there. He gets to go to Detroit, gets to sit for a year. They can get out from under Jared Goff next year if they don't extend him. There's talk that they might. I think if they do, it'll be a team-friendly deal. So he's really talented. It's just we didn't see it at the Combine Reporter because of the injury, and he fell off the news cycle because of the injury.
I mean, if I'm wrong, and I'll take the L. I think that Hendon Hooker could be good. I'm not a hater by any means. I think he could be good, but I definitely don't think that he's going to be the second best quarterback in this draft class. I mean, it's a decent fit in Detroit. I think maybe that's why you like it. I can understand they've got a lot of weapons there in Detroit. That culture is definitely changing. I mean, the schedule released recently and they're going to be opening night with the Chiefs. I never would have thought I'd saw that, happening, because the Lions have been the laughing stock for the longest time. So for me, I think my surprise, I actually didn't mind the Dwayne McBride pick. I mean, I prefer rookie drafts later. I know a lot of rookie drafts are happening right now. I tend to like him later, like kind of almost like late June, early July. Because then we understand a little bit more information. I do think that Dalvin Cook could be on the way out. So to me, I actually kind of like the pick. I think it's kind of interesting because they only have Alexander Madison. He is a late round running back though, so I'll be curious to see what happens there. I was a little surprised that Luke Musgrave was still available when I took him at 3.9. I really didn't want to take him, but I was really surprised that he was available. Do you guys think I'm higher on Musgrave than most, or you felt that was the right spot for him to go?
I didn't think it was a bad spot for him to go personally. I mean, with Tunyon not there anymore, he should be the starting tight end there for the Packers now. So yeah, I didn't think it was a bad spot. I thought it was interesting. You already had taken Kincaid with your first pick, that you then kind of doubled down a tight end there and grab Musgrave.
Yeah, for me, it's just they also took Tucker Kraft later in the draft. So they drafted 2 tight ends. Historically, that Green Bay office hasn't used a tight end. So see him to go over someone like a Luke Schoonmaker or even Brenton Strange or guys like Darnell Washington who might have a little more upside. I think at this point in the draft, it was just for me I don't know if he's the starter. Like, could he lose a job to Tucker Kraft? He easily could. And that tight end position for the Packers just doesn't carry a ton of weight for me.
Wow, so you don't even have Luke Musgrave as the third best tight end. Sounds like you have him at like 5th or 6th.
Yeah, I think he's probably 5th or 6th for me.
Wow. That's interesting.
I mean, I definitely think everyone has it in some combination of Kincaid, Laporta, Mayer as the top 3. And then it becomes wishy-washy of where you think what's going to happen next, right? Do you like the Darnell Washington in Pittsburgh? Like, can he be more than just the 6th lineman? Do you like Luke Schoonmaker stepping in Dallas to fill that Dalton Schultz role? Do you like Brenton Strange? Like, can he take over for Evan Ingram next year? Right at that point, in the 3rd, 4th round of your draft, you're probably looking at guys that need a year to develop anyway. So it could work out. I just think it's a little early for me to take a guy at a position on a team that doesn't historically get a ton of volume.
So going over to our last round of our rookie mock draft, round 4. At the 4.1, we have Dorian Thompson Robinson, quarterback. At the 4.2, we had tight end Luke Schoonmaker. At 4.3, Dustin selected A.T. Perry, wide receiver. At the 4.4 was wide receiver Puka Nacua. At 4.5, it was tight end Darnell Washington. At the 4.6, Joe selected running back Deuce Vaughn. At the 4.7 was wide receiver Michael Wilson. At the 4.8, it was running back Evan Hull. And at my pick at 4.9, I took wide receiver Justin Shorter. At 4.10, it was wide receiver Parker Washington. At 4.11, it was running back Sean Tucker. And the last pick was 4.12, wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson. So, Joe, what stood out to you in this round 4 of our mock?
Yeah, one thing that stood out was the, kind of these running backs that got taken, especially wasn't really expecting Sean Tucker potentially, being that he was kind of he's undrafted player. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, picked him up. So I thought it was interesting that he went, and then having Hall go here as well was kind of surprising, just because he's going to be down the list on the depth chart of the Colts running back position.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was surprised Sean Tucker, he didn't get drafted. I think people are just living off that pre-draft hype. I was surprised with the 401 with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who I think is a good quarterback, but I don't see starting potential with him in Cleveland. They have Deshaun Watson. They're paying him a ton of money for a ton of years. If you're going to take a quarterback there, I'm surprised it wasn't either Clayton Tune in Arizona, who has a chance at starting if Kyler Murray's not healthy or they move on, or Stetson Bennett for the Rams, who has potential if Matthew Stafford retires or gets injured to start. So I don't think you're getting a ton of potential upside this year with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And then I was surprised, honestly, Steve, you took Justin Shorter. You're very high on Dalton Kincaid playing this slot role for the Bills. That's also where Justin Shorter would play. Are you just covering your bases that you just want the slot receiver for the Bills? Is that your game?
Oh, boy, calling me out over here. Here's the thing, Dustin. Gabe Davis is going to be a free agent next year. I think Justin Shorter actually would fit more of the build of what Gabe Davis is. And to me, this 4th round is a shot in the dark. This is what the 4th round is. You're hoping that, you catch lightning in a bottle. And that to me is Justin Shorter to a T. Former 5-star high school recruit. He was recruited to Penn State and then ended up transferring. But he was more highly rated than Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle. So this guy has talent. It just never really came to be. So now he comes to Buffalo, which is one of the most potent offenses in the entire league. If they can get him right, I think he could be a really talented player. He probably won't be, but to me, again, this is what the 4th round is. I'm a little surprised that you took A.T. Perry at 4.3 because personally, I like, as far as a dart throw, I like Nacua, Shorter, and Parker Washington better than A.T. Perry.
Yeah, I like Nacua as well. Just there's a lot of receivers in that room, right? They have Ben Skoranek, they have Tutu Atwell. They have all these guys that are just there that we're hoping Van Jefferson catches on after Cooper Kupp. For me, A.T. Perry has the chance to be the number 2, right? Chris Olave is obviously the one there. He's tall. He's 6'5", just like Shorter, who's 6'4". They're both tall receivers. But Michael Thomas hasn't played in what seems forever. We don't know how good he's going to be.
I'm with you there.
Rashid Shaheed is okay, but had a good rookie year last year, so we don't know if he's actually good. And then there's just no one else, like Traquan Smith, the ghost of Brian Edwards, like Keith Kirkwood, Kirk Merritt are on this roster. Kawan Baker, A.T. Perry can easily step up into that role. We've seen Derek Carr like bigger receivers, like Matt Collins. So I could see A.T. Perry being a threat there this year and possibly next year with Derek Carr running that offense.
I think you got to take off your Derek Carr rosy glasses there, Dustin.
I mean, I'm kind of with Dustin. I didn't mind his pick of A.T. Perry there. I think there is definitely a path, and the wide receiver depth chart of the Saints is, like you said, I think it's up for grabs as far as wide receiver 2 goes, aside from Olave. So I don't hate the pick that he had there with A.T. Perry.
Just so you know, Steve, Matt Collins last year in a Derek Carr offense 94 targets, 50 receptions, 690 yards, 4 touchdowns. If he was wide receiver 46, if A.T. Perry gets that, like, that's really good for a rookie.
Dropping that knowledge. I like it.
I know that way too well as a Devontae Adams owner, man. It was so frustrating to see freaking Hollins get all these targets and deep shots, and I'm like, why isn't this Devontae?
Yeah, so for me, I think the biggest surprise, I'm with you. I agree. Thompson Robinson really doesn't make a lot of sense here in the 4th round. Maybe if you own Deshaun Watson and you want to have it as a handcuff in the Superflex league. But I'm going to agree with you guys. I don't like the picks of Evan Hall or Sean Tucker. Jonathan Taylor has that backfield on lock, so I don't really know what to expect from Evan Hall. And Sean Tucker, he went undrafted. When it comes to undrafted running backs, the success rate is super minimal. I understand a lot of people really liked him coming out of the draft. There's a lot of buzz about him, but because of the medical, he ended up going undrafted. I'm not saying he's not talented, but to me, I'm looking to draft. To me, he's an undrafted guy as well. I'm looking to pick him up after a rookie draft. I wouldn't want to select him with a rookie pick.
I agree with you. Even if Sean Tucker somehow gets the second running back spot on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's going to be behind Rachaad White, who's young. If you're going to take a dart throw, like, take someone, even with Evan Hall, like, take someone who's got a better shot. Take a Tyler Huesman for the Chargers. Take a Deneric Prince, with KC, who can fill in that role on a better offense. Like, take guys like that who have a clearer path to being a starter besides a guy who's just clearly a handcuff.
So that was our analysis for our 4-round Superflex rookie mock draft. If you enjoyed this video, we ask you to please like it to show your support. Comment below on your thoughts on our analysis and the picks that took place in our rookie mock draft. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we recently have joined Apple and Spotify podcasts, so you can follow us there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.